Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Bubba Da Vinci. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday, or depending on where you are, I guess it could be Saturday evening. It is a good start to a day, to a day. Um, my dogs are a little disappointed with me. Normally, I would been out walking, but I had a morning meeting this morning. It was actually a very good meeting. Um, with Missing O. I appreciate him taking the time to jump on with me this morning and have some discussions. It's always nice talking to people um, actually in person, um, and getting to know them. And more and more you find out how much you have in common, or how people, or it's, as I said when we were chatting, it's a very small world. And he said, especially in the streaming community, but often it's like that. You know, uh, I can't even remember what it's called anymore. Was it 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon, or what? I don't remember the number of degrees, but it was like you were able to connect Kevin Bacon to any person at any time, within a certain number of connections. And I kind of feel like that's the way it is in the streaming community. It seems like, and I think I told you on one of the shows, randomly I was at an airport stuck, and was in line, waiting to be told that we weren't going to be taken off, and there's a lady behind me, and we're just end up striking up a conversation, and we find out that she knows Billy and Alexa. And I mean, this is random. Denver airport, middle of the night, and it's like, what are the odds? And that's kind of how to feel. But I also believe that you know I believe things happen for a reason, whether you call it kismet, or whatever you decide to believe in, or things like that. I really do believe um, people gravitate towards each other, and when it's the right time, right? The question always is, do you recognize it? And when it does happen, and if you recognize it, are you at the place in your life where you're willing to take chances, go out and do something different? And the bigger thing is, I have another person who I met about 3 years ago now, single mother, with a son, great young little boy. So she's a single mother. And he has some major health issues. She didn't think she was going to be able to have children, and when he was born, he has some health issues and has had to go in for several surgeries. And when I met her, she was very angry and bitter. She'd been that way pretty much her entire life, we found out. And we had a moment where we kind of collided. It wasn't a kind of a good situation, but something brought us together, and we had to have multiple conversations with each other because of this incident. And each time we had those conversations, I learned a little bit more about her. And I I I was I understood why she was as angry as she was over time. And little by little, I started trying to relax and offer pieces of advice. She was very, very resistant. And we were lucky enough to, through some other contacts that we have, we were able to get her son in a better healthcare situation than she was able to get herself, because she was getting state assistance and things like that. And the friend of ours was willing to take her on pro bono, and where the prognosis for her son was very, very poor, through the system she was working through there. It's now actually, it's a longer period of time than I thought, because he just started kindergarten. And I got up yesterday morning, and I got a photograph of her standing with him in his kindergarten clothes. Almost brought tears to my eyes, and she was like, "Yeah, this might not have happened if I hadn't have met you." And and again, I wouldn't say we have a friendship or relationship. You know, her situation here in Iowa was horrible. Our initial meeting was, again, not pleasant. But over a period of time, understanding, the situation she was in and everything else, it quickly moved to, a different level, and including us helping her find a better job situation than she was in out of state, and getting her away from, not that everything was bad in her life, but when you're surrounded by the same things and you don't break away, you fall into the same routines and ruts. And so we helped a little bit with that. And, she is now, healthy and on her own 2 feet and completely off of, and I'm not taking credit for any of that. I was able to, when I saw past, the situation and started understanding her needs and everything a little bit more, I offered opportunities. That's it. Whether she took the opportunities or didn't take the opportunities were up to her. We didn't give any financial assistance. We did show her ways that she could better her situation, and she took those and worked very hard. And then we made a suggestion at the right time to say, while your situation is better, it is not as the best that it could be. And I'm sorry. Interestingly enough, that was actually them. I told you I was thinking about going to a Jeep event today, and I was going to be going through her area. And I was going to go potentially see them if I'm going, but I'm not doing the Jeep thing now. So she just saw the message saying I'm not coming. But anyway, so I really believe that people are thrown together for a reason. Sometimes it needs to be adversarial, and the adversarial thing, the adversarial situation, makes you realize that, that you can do better, or, things like that. Sometimes they're, temporary relationships where you're both moving the same direction, and you guys can work with each other and, help each other get through the situation. And sometimes they're very long lasting relationships. I believe in trying to not ever burn a bridge, and keep even relationships that are going to part ways, keeping them in a good place, because you never know when those people are going to come back into your lives. I'll give you a good example. Because a lot of this is happening right now. I feel like I'm putting out, both in my personal life and my work life, like this like this collab vibe, and people that I've either helped in the past are coming to help me, a la all the friends and family that rushed out with their tractors and backhoes and skid loaders to help me get everything back into place before this horrible round of rainstorms hit. Those are people that I had done things for and never asked anything from, hoping that one day if I needed to put out a call, people would come, and they came. To where my middle daughter is part of this collegiate program where she had to put the program together, and it's a 1-year program, all expenses paid, where you have to go to 5 places in the world, and it's a fellowship, and you had to put together why you were going to those places and how it was going to help you in your career and your educational path. And you basically you pick the countries, and then you pick what you're going to be doing or studying and working with. It has to be, you have to go there, and you have to either work with a nonprofit program, scholastic program, or something within your field, but you can't get paid for it. So when I say nonprofit, let's say for example, for my daughter, she's getting ready. She just did her LSTATs. She graduates this year, and then she's starting law school, but she doesn't want to become a lawyer. She wants to become she wants to work at a think tank, which she's been interning at in Washington, D.C. And they told her if she can get these things done, that they have a job for her. And she is a researcher. So she wants to get her law degree, and her thing is she wants to help write international policy. And so she wants to go to she picked countries that we're having struggles in international policy with right now, a la Turkey and things like that. And she has to find a place in Turkey to go. She stays there, and then she'll work with like an international foundation or whatever, doing research for either the government or the law firms and things like that. She has to do all the legwork and everything else and present it. It's due on October 1st. And the school and the foundation help you not with getting this planned. But when you turn in your plan, it has to have, you know what your costs are going to be. You've already located a place to stay, and a place, and what that's going to cost, your food costs, where you're going to work, what your plan is, and what you're going to get, and how you're going to report it, and what you're going to get out of it. So she's been having problems with 2 countries. She's got everything lined up for most of the countries. She's got Africa done. I can't remember the other 2 countries, but she's having problems with 2. One of them's Turkey. So I've in the past, I've lived in Turkey 2 or 3 different times. I guess lived there officially twice, and then one time I was back and forth. Like I was there for like 2 months, and I don't consider that living there. And I made a lot of good friends and contacts and things like that. Now, this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And for the most part, I haven't, I've kept in contact with a lot of those people. Some of these people were people I, just partied with. Some of these people were people I did business with. Some of them were government officials. And so, my daughter said, can you just reach out to your contacts over there and see, if there's anything you can do to help? And so I said, sure, and everything else. And I reached out to all of them, and all of them jumped at the chance to start calling around and checking around to find programs that were in need of someone and would be willing to work with my daughter in that program for 4 or 5 months. And I was shocked, but it made me feel really good that I had left a good enough impression with my time over there. And I had done things that they all said, hey, you did this for me, or, we did this when we were, when you were here in Turkey. I always appreciated that. This is a great opportunity to pay you back, or just to do this. And we'd love to do this. And, several of them offered to be a point of contact for my daughter if something happened. Because right now, Turkey and any of the Middle Eastern countries is really not good for a 21-year-old American girl to be at by themselves. That being said, I encourage my daughters to face life head on and not live in fear, but not be stupid. Don't put yourself in situations that are going to, enable someone to do you harm. But I think I've done the best job I can to make my daughters aware. I've also made sure that all my daughters have some basic training. They all know how to use firearms. Every one of them carries a SAP. I've introduced a lot of people from Pokemon Go events to my SAP system. I've actually made quite a few to give to young ladies that go to the Pokemon Go events and everything else. If you guys want to know what a SAP is, I would be happy to introduce it to you sometime, and even make you one. They're, legal. They're something. It's one of the few weapons that you can carry around to almost any country in the world and not get in trouble for. My daughters have had to use them. They're non-lethal. But they will definitely stop just about anyone in their tracks. Farm Don, there he is. Hey, buddy, I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, Farm Don's seen one and been introduced to one. Yeah, and you just have to kind of look at those things. So, a lot of people are going, I can't believe you're going to encourage your daughter to go to Turkey. And we go with everything that's going on in the Middle East. And I said, when I was in Turkey, it was, when, right around the Gulf War time. And, people, they were very negative against Americans. And, I find that, people, if you're putting out a bad vibe and you're going out there and making political statements and everything else, that's what you're going to get back. I have a lot of Turkish, or outside of Turkish, because there's a lot of Kurds in Turkey and other people from other countries in the Middle East who have gone over there because of wartime situations. And I've never had a problem with a single Muslim person over there is until you start getting into politics or religion. And quite frankly, from a religious standpoint, we have more in common than we have apart. And you just have to be open-minded and not judge. And, like I said, I spent that time specifically, I spent like a year and a half living in Turkey and then going to other Middle Eastern countries when the tensions were very, very high, and never a single problem. And my daughter just got back, did Africa this last year in a very tense war footing spot as a young lady. She was with a group, but she feels very confident, and I feel confident for her. And again, I feel very blessed that these relationships that I've built over time are paying dividends so far down the line. So it looks like that one is now locked down, and that's hopefully, if she gets this fellowship, that's where she'll be able to go. And I feel confident in the people I have met over there that will either look out for her or be a safety net for her as they go. So this is kind of a long thing. So talking with Missing O this morning, and last couple of days, it's just been so many either relationships that I've formed in the past that are coming out and saying, hey, well, let us pitch a hand, or we'll help you out, or we'll do this because I've either done something in the past, or new relationships that are coming that you find out, okay, you're kind of heading the same direction. And I'm always up for the journey. I'm always up for the adventure. And so I don't know if Missing O's on right now because he has another stream that he has to jump back and forth on, but I enjoyed the conversation. And if this ends up working out, great. It's a whole new journey, and I'm totally in for it, and I dig it. If it doesn't work out, it's still great to work with people and to get different points of view and everything else. That's the most exciting part of my life. I mean, meeting Farm Don, the odds are that, I would have met him, interacted with him, and even, become friends is probably slim if you follow the standard mentality of most people in the United States nowadays. People tend to, try to be, reclusive, and they don't talk with people outside of their normal circle of influence and their friends and things like that. And you get a little bit more of it when you stream or you follow other streamers, but that definitely doesn't mean that you connect. And I always like to throw myself out there. I probably way too much. And I like people that kind of give that positive, that want that connection as well. And I also like the challenge, like Farm Don, is an amazing guy. But I remember one of the first things that he did, it was like checking me out and checking the company out and kind of doing things. And he's like, I don't always just jump into these kind of partnerships, relationships, friendships, whatever we were starting to become at that time, before I check everything out, because there's so much, stuff that's fake out there and everything else. And totally dig that. I totally get that. And again, back then and even now, it's, we don't hang out all the time and everything else, but every time I have the opportunity to hang out with Farm Don, I love it. I mean, he's such an amazing guy, so far beyond me intellectually. And that's not trying to butter him up sort of guy thing, but in a completely different way. You know, his educational background, his thought process, his both socioeconomical background and family background is so different than mine. But I love having those conversations, right? I love learning. I love understanding that stuff. Same thing with Trainer Club or Alexa or Yee, who pops on here occasionally. I don't know if Yee's on here this morning. You know, all those relationships. It's not people I would hang out with. That's not true. That sounds bad. It's not my circle here, right? It's not my day-to-day life. But wouldn't that be boring as hell? You know, hanging out with the people that think like me and have the same hobbies as me and does everything just like I do. That's such a small world to live in. And while this is fun and interesting, and I'm enjoying this semi dialogue, more of a you know a dump, you know, as far as intellectual dump, I guess. And it's interesting. I find it therapeutic, you know, to be able to vent and kind of get this stuff out because, you know, I can't really talk with family about this because everybody's already stressed enough. So talking about some of these topics don't really work. And to the people I'm here around on a normal basis, it's so far outside their lives, you know. And when I work with, hey, there's Yee, hey brother. When I'm working with people here, it's all about, oh, my tractor broke again, or, you know, the corn's not coming out fast enough, or whatever our daily lives are here. That's the scope of conversations that everybody lives day to day. I mean, quite frankly, if I didn't have this sort of outlet, or I didn't have people that in my business life that I could do it, yeah, I don't know how I could handle it, because at any given day, I can drive into town and go to the Casey's, which is our convenience store gas station, and everybody grabs coffee there, and see all the people in this small town that I know, because, you know, 3 daughters that went to school here, PTA meetings, everything else. I mean, when you only have 800 people, you know everybody in that town, and see that, and every conversation is the same conversation. It's either, you know, about the economy, about farming, or if something happens, everybody knows about it. Like, okay, we had a local here that was an idiot, and I shouldn't say it that way because unfortunately they passed. Yesterday, in a break between the rains, decide that he was going to try to mow and get everything knocked down, and because it's been raining, it's muddy and slick, and he was mowing around his pond, and the vehicle slid and then flipped, and he was strapped in, and he went into the pond and he drowned. And my brother-in-law, who's the sheriff, got the call, had to go out there. A bunch of locals had to bring out their trucks and winch it out and get it out there. And he had passed because he had flipped over in the water and was strapped in, and he died. That's the conversation all last night and all today about that. Now, believe it or not, that happens once a year, at least once a year around here. Someone flips over the tractor, not always in the pond, but yeah, driving a tractor or a big mower in these areas, especially we have hills and things like that, it's dangerous. And if you don't pay attention, everybody gets too lax. Every year we have at least one fatality in this county. I mean, that's not, I mean, I don't know how many we have across the state, but every year someone flips a tractor, a mower, or something and dies. And then that's the next conversation for a period of time. But anyway, the point being is I don't know if I could handle that being the only conversations, but the people who are born and raised here, that's their whole world. That's all they do. That's all they talk about. And I have such, you know, I'm blessed to have had such a much larger view of the world, participated in a bigger, broader spectrum of the world, and be able to meet such a broad spectrum of wonderful people, no matter what the socioeconomic level or you know or the background of the people are. I try not to even look at that in the conversations. I just like meeting people, and like I said, if the universe pushes us together to work together, that's great. If it's just a journey together, a lot of the people that we went to Southeast Asia with was a one and done, right? We met them, had a great time. We still text message and things like that, but I don't hang out with them on a normal basis. And it's not because there's anything wrong with them. It's just not our time. And I feel like, right now, like I said, I must be putting that vibe out, because so many companies that we just briefly touched bases with and told our story are hitting me up daily going, how do we participate? What do we do? Everything else. Conversations I'm having with people like Missing O and everything else. I've had these ideas. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. And it feels like maybe enough people are starting to see the same issues, and everybody's trying to work on a common, move a common direction, not on common paths. Because what Missing O's been doing, he's got the same philosophy. He's trying to help people, specifically streamers, help streamers and do a bunch of things and create new create new processes. I was going to say processes. And I think that's genius. Now, that's a tandem path. Okay, I'm going to pop up with boy, dude, I miss having you on the streams, because you always throw up great things like this. He's right. I mean, it's like, I hate to be that crunchy, Mercury's in retrograde sort of guy. Again, no judgments, but that's not me. But I do believe sometimes, you meet people at the right time. I mean, Missing O and I have known each other for, I guess, 2 or 3 years. I don't remember when that event is. When I say know each other, we met briefly, chatted a little bit. We have a couple of people we know in common. We've never had this amount of contact. That was probably for a reason. Then now all of a sudden, for whatever reason, he's blessed me and been popping up on this show and watching, and giving me some tips and tricks on how to do things better. And now we had a deeper conversation, and we realized once again, we're heading the same direction, but on tandem paths, doing things different ways. And it's like, wow, is there a opportunity to do this? And maybe work with each other and do things? Maybe, right? And maybe it becomes great. Or maybe we each get something out of it, and then we move back on our paths, because the roadblocks we've been having are not going to be solved with our thought processes, but by being introduced to someone else's, right? Because while I like to tell everybody I know everything, I know I don't, right? There's saying everything to be confident, and then there's realizing that you need a lot of people, a lot of smart people around you to actually solve those problems. Quite frankly, I'm not nearly as smart as I like to think I am. And I think that's a big part of the game, which is realizing that that other people's ideas, while they might not be necessarily exactly what you're looking for, and or fit exactly on your path, they will spark a thought process that you may not have gone down that will help you solve problems. In a lot of my relationships through my life, meeting people briefly and things like that, that's what that moment was. You meet, you're going down a tandem path, you have that moment where you intersect, and a cup of coffee, a conversation, a brief telling of a story or kind of what's going on there, and boom, you're back on your path. But it only took that moment and being open to that moment that sparks an entire, it's that spark that ignites the fire when you've been struggling and only getting smoke. Right. And I don't know what's in my coffee this morning. My daughter made it. I think she might have dropped something in it because I'm being way too philosophical this morning. It's not much. That's not really me. But this isn't my normal coffee. I have no idea what she made me here. It's actually good though. But she was up all night studying and she was drinking something. I have a funny feeling there was maybe a little something in there. But yeah, there you go. So great meeting with Missing O this morning. Super appreciative for it. Got some really new clarity and a whole crap ton of notes that have come from that conversation, not direct notes of he said this and this is, blah, 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 but things he would say. It's like, wow, I hadn't looked at it like that. And I just needed to make a note with a little icon that I put on there, which says kind of think about that, look that up. I got a little shorthand that I put in my book, when something sparks an interest. So that's been the morning so far. I guess the worst thing about this is my dog, the youngest dog, Oya. So I have two dogs and they'll be here starting. I think I'm going to bring them in here in the morning, starting probably next week. I've got to put a couple more things here in the office. So the walks are starting to get shorter, unfortunately. Rainy, muddy season, not a good time to walk dogs. When the snow hits, awesome. And then summer, awesome. Muddy season, not awesome. The dogs are bigger dogs and they need their playtime, just like everybody else. I mean, if they just stay cooped up all the time and they sleep, it's not good for them. They need to go out and run and smell and do all the different things that they need to be dogs. And they would rather be in here with me. So I think starting this next week, since it's a shorter walk, I'm going to load them up in the vehicle with me, bring them in here, and then I've got to put up a couple of baby gates and things like that so they don't tear shit up. And then I'll have them there. I think in that back corner, I did a different camera angle here. I was looking. I think I'm going to put the dog beds back there because they will just lay down in there. But I have two. So I have Blue, which is a pit bull terrier mix, but he is old as F. I'm surprised he's still alive. So both my dogs are rescues. I think we covered this on a show, or we might not have. Almost every animal that I have is a rescue animal. I have 3 daughters that are bleeding hearts, and we have horses and goats and all the things that we have, most except for the cows and most of the horses and the chickens. Everything else is unintentional. The cats, all the cats we have a lot of cats. We have 2 that are outdoor cats, and everything else is a farm cat, but they're all rescues. The dogs are rescues. Blue belonged to my partners in the restaurant, and when they moved to Tennessee, a lot of cities have ordinances against pit bulls, and unless you got them when they were puppies and they were raised there, you're not allowed to have them. You're not allowed to have them in the city and get them licensed. And so where they were moving and they bought their house, they hadn't checked into that ahead of time, and they moved next door to a police officer, and he basically said, "You can't have that dog here. That it's forbidden. They'll come and I'd have to call the animal control, and they'll take the dog and put it to sleep." So they had to move twice. I mean, they took one load and then came back and then took a second load. So when they came back the second time, they tried to find someone to take Blue here, and no one wanted to take it. And the reason that is, we can have them here, but you have to have $1 million, kid you not, $1 million insurance policy on them in case they hurt or injure someone. Costs you about $150, $200 a year. I mean, it's not that expensive, but most people didn't want to take on an older dog. He's right now, I mean, we've had him for 3 years now. But he was 7 at the time. He's now 10. And he'd been a farm dog. So he wasn't going to do well inside a house or an apartment or things like that. He needed places to go. And so, yeah, they were getting ready to put him to sleep. And I said, I'll take him. So Blue is one of my dogs. And yeah, now he's just an old man. He still runs around and everything else, but he's missing half his teeth. And, he's just kind of getting all soft. And then Oya is the name of an African dog. She's an African Ridgeback. Great dogs. They're bred to protect villages from like lion attacks and hyena attacks and things like that. So they are kind of she's a 50-50. So there's a person down the road, he's a scumball, and he breeds dogs to sell. That's how he makes his money. And he overbreeds. And what happened is he does about 4 different breeds. One of the breeds is an American hound dog, a red hound. Those red hounds are the ones that you used to see in the movies, and big floppy ears, big nose. You get on the ground, you use them to run coons, or they use them as cadaver dogs, things like that. We do a lot of hunting here, so hound dogs are very popular. And then he also did the Rhodesian Ridgebacks or African Ridgebacks. Both very aggressive dogs, and both of them are kind of bred for the same thing, which is the Ridgebacks can be used for hunting. They use them for sniffing out, hunting, and treeing lions and things like that are predatory around a village. And they are also super protective. And it's really cool when they get on alert. They call it a Ridgeback because all their hair, not like a normal dog where all the hair on their back starts to stand up. A Ridgeback's got a ridge right down the center that stands completely up, and the rest of their fur stays flat. And that's how you can tell that they smelled something or there's something aggressive getting ready to happen. That line goes straight up. So this idiot took off for a weekend. One of his male hound dog and his female Ridgeback ended up hooking up, partying while he was gone for the weekend. And he had a litter of puppies, and he because they weren't purebreds and he couldn't sell them, let's say he was disposing of them, and not in a pleasant way. Oya, who had a different name at the time, he kept that one. I don't know why. And he raised her for about 6 months. And I think he was going to see if someone, if maybe people would want this breed or whatever. Very pretty. And when nobody was interested, he took her out to an abandoned property right down the road and chained her up to it and left her. No food, no water. My daughters found her, and we called the police. Apparently he moved. He does this all the time. He took his dogs and moved someplace else. And police said, well, we can go and put her down. And my daughters were like, no. So we asked if we could just take her and adopt her. And I got her. She was like, I don't even remember anymore, like 90 pounds underweight or 60 pounds underweight when we got her. Had all kinds of problems, very skittish. And we took her to the vet, got her cleaned up, got the weight on her. I sent her to training. And she's still very skittish, but she's a good girl, high energy. But again, that's my other adopted dog. So we're going to be bringing them here soon. But I feel bad because like this morning, I tried to walk them anywhere from an hour to an hour and 30 minutes, and they got like 25 minutes today. And it was like, really, Dad, this is it. And their energy levels super, super high. And so again, long story about, I think I'm going to start bringing them here. They're calmer when they're around someone. So, and you guys will get to see them. That up there is a badger, and Blue actually helped me get that badger. I'm actually going to start putting a few more of the taxidermy on the wall from my skinning days. And I'm actually thinking about maybe doing some trapping and skinning this year. I have no idea. Oh, I know why. God, see, everything's all over the place. Kind of a side topic, going from real positive stuff to not negative stuff and everything else. But Iowa has a huge number of invasive species. The U.S. is horrible for invasive species. In Texas, when I lived in Texas, and my daughter's been dealing with it quite a bit, we have a lot of invasive species there, especially feral hogs. Um, there's a lot of Russian boar and feral hogs in Texas that decimate. And Farm Don lives in Texas, and he can testify to this. Um, to the point. So hogs have big litters, and they have them often, and so the populations grow very, very quickly. They're super smart. Hogs are really smart. They're actually smarter than dogs a lot of the time, and they're very aggressive, especially the Russian boar, and they root up everything. So it is okay to hunt evasive species year round. And so hog's really big out there. In Iowa, we have carp and Chinese carp that are just decimating our fish populations, to the point, I think on the drive through when we drove, I drove the Jeep around. Those of you that followed and watched me go into Crescent the Lake, and I said, "Oh, look, it's down." And then they drained it, and I said, "Oh, I think they're trying to get the carp out," and they did. They took over 5,000 carp out of that one pond. Because again, high population, nothing, there's no predators for them, nothing eats them. And they eat the eggs and everything of the other fish, including the other small fish. So they decided to actually drain the entire pond and either pull them out or kill all of them. And then they're getting ready. They let it completely dry down. So even eggs that were laid couldn't survive in the mud. They let it completely dry down, and then they're going to now go ahead and unblock the river, let it fill back up, and then restock it with the bass and the things that should be in there, and hopefully it'll take over again. But right now we're getting hit with when I first moved up here, people would say, "Oh, look at the ladybugs. There's these yellow and orange ladybugs." And I looked at them, I go, "Those aren't ladybugs, lady. Those are Japanese beetles." And Japanese beetles, they look like ladybugs, same shape, same dots on the back and everything else, but they're either yellow or orange, where ladybugs are red. Ladybugs will eat aphids and are actually very friendly to the agriculture around here. They will eat leaves and everything else, but they basically would rather eat the bugs, the aphids and everything else, and the eggs on the leaves, and aren't really bad for the things. Japanese beetles, on the other hand, are very destructive, and they're also very unhealthy for your. I have no idea what just happened there. Are you guys still there? Okay. Hopefully you're still there. It looks like we just had a lightning strike outside, and everything went black for a second, and I lost all my devices. The problem of being in an area that gets affected by storms. And so at this time of year, what you have to watch for, and this is kind of the reason I'm having this conversation, is the Japanese beetles, when it gets cold, they find places to hide, and they will actually go into they'll attach themselves to the roofs of animals, both wild animals and your domestic animals, cats, dogs. And so as we're starting to get colder and everything else, you've got to go and check your animals, open up their mouths and look and see if any of them have attached themselves into the roofs of your animals' mouths. Otherwise, it can get so populated in there that it can actually choke them, and it also does damage to the roofs of their mouths. So on the walk this morning, I noticed that Oya was constantly doing something in her mouth and scratching at her face, and I opened up her mouth, and she had 2 Japanese beetles attached to the roof of her mouth. So I had to get those out of there. And I was realizing, shit, we're coming into that time of season, and I'm going to have to go ahead and start doing that. Google it and look at photos. I mean, it's disgusting. Wild animals sometimes will have hundreds of these beetles attached to the inside of their mouths. Coyotes, fox, everything, if they can't get them out of there. And so, again, it's an invasive species. So, you know, um, some idiot brought into Iowa, several years ago, Nutrien. I think they're called Nutrina. It's a Southeast Asian rat. Yeah, it looks like, to me, it looks like a combination between a rat or a beaver. Yeah, doesn't have a big tail. They can get really big. They have teeth. They live in the rivers and they get in your ponds. We have muskrats, and muskrats are bad. They're about that big. That's a big muskrat, and they burrow into the sides of the river and the sides of your pond and dig tunnels, and it erodes it. And when the water gets inside there, your pond's bank can be broken. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I had like a $5,000 repair because I hadn't been trapping them in a while, and they had dug a big network inside there, and big rainstorm, and then it filled those tunnels with water, and then it pushed through and blew out the other side. And so next thing I know, no, you have them in your area too in Houston? Oh, devastating. Because you guys have so much wet area over there. The problem is they breed like rats. Rats have huge, like in New York City and things like that. The reason there's so many rats is you have one female, you're talking big litters. And so the more of them you have and the longer that they are, the more they breed. And Nutrina are the same thing. Is it Nutria? Nutria. Okay. See, I was saying it wrong. Nutrina, I think, is the stuff my daughter puts on her face. Nutria. And so big teeth, big furry things, they can get big the longer they're there. I don't think anybody eats them. I don't think their fur is worth anything, but we're getting them. They work their way up the Mississippi. And this is part of the problem is, somebody brought them in to Iowa. A lot of times they get these exotics and they bring them in as pets, or they bring them in like we're having a problem with Vietnamese pigs, because people get them and they think that they want them as pets, and they go, oh, they're pigs, I'll just let them go. And they breed. And now we got all these little pigs all over the place. And people go, oh, that's cute, but they're not cute if they're tearing up things. And the nutria they're a worse and bigger version of a muskrat. I've already had muskrat damage. I don't need nutria damage, which is what got me to thinking, okay, I've spotted now about 8 to 10 on the riverbanks along our property. And at first I thought they were, the other thing we have is not hedgehogs. They're like gophers, but they're bigger. I can't think of what they're called right now. Anyway, and we have gophers too, but these are bigger than gophers. And I thought that's what it was. And no, we have beaver. Beaver just dam up things, but they're a size of a beaver. And these guys burrow too, but they burrow out in out in the fields. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, groundhogs. There you go. Groundhogs. We have groundhogs here, and groundhogs and gophers will all create similar damage. So, parts of the Midwest and things like that, they have gopher hunts. We have tons of possum. And possum aren't as dangerous. They're just nasty, and they just go eat. I'll shoot a possum that gets in the property, but as a general rule, they're just scavengers. So we have quite a few groundhogs out here, and when they start burrowing under like your buildings and things like that, that's when I take problems and I'll trap them and get rid of them. And we have these guys up here, Witcher Badger. And so when I started seeing the nutria along the property, and mostly it's eastern Iowa has the problem along the Mississippi, now they're coming more central. And I was like, before this gets out of hand, this is going to be a trapping season. And so I guess if I'm gonna trap, I might as well just go out and just have a varmint season. Whatever it is, coyotes and coyote. I don't think I'm gonna do beaver. We don't have any beaver directly on the property doing damage. I got rid of a couple beaver a couple of years ago, but we have about 4 or 5 that use the riverway to go up and down there. But the places they're damming way up on the front is BLM land, and that's fine. And there's a place for them. Population wise, any of these animals, I don't go and hunt groundhog on a regular basis because I want to get rid of groundhog. They serve a purpose. When they start rooting under your buildings, and I've already have foundation problems, that's when they become an issue. Nutria are not from this. They're an invasive species. I can go out and just shoot them and hunt them full time, but I don't have time to go sit around every single day and hunt them. So I'll set traps. So natural species from this state or any state that I live in, you follow the rules because there are rules for the populations. Like I can't take out, I can take 1 bobcat and 1 lynx per year here if I feel like they're there. I have them on my property, and I think they're beautiful, and hopefully they're helping keep down the populations of the other animals. Balance, right? If I saw 10 or 15 on there and they're killing my chickens, then I'd go and start doing something. Raccoons, same thing. Normally, I don't go out and trap raccoons. You can because they do but usually, young raccoons get taken out by coyote and by by fox and by the bobcats. And so I let the critters handle the critters. Eagles, we have so many eagles here now that I let them handle each other. But when a population, either an invasive species comes in and starts moving in and causing problems, and or a local species that's gotten too big and causing problems and the animals aren't controlling themselves, I'll go out there and do it. So like even turkey hunting, when I go out get out in the morning and I'm walking the dogs and I see 100 turkey in my field, it's time to go hunting, right? If I get out in the morning and I see 20 or 30 turkeys out in the field, that's beautiful. Let them go. Let them have. There's plenty out there for everybody. But 100 turkey, they can do a lot of damage, and that just means that there's not enough predators out there for them to keep the population in control. So anyway, today's been this morning's been kind of a I know what I'm going to be doing this winter, when I'm not traveling and things like that. I decided, I haven't put out a tree stand in several years. And so the plan tomorrow is to pull out about 20 or 30 traps. People think you just grab a trap and you put it out there. It's not that simple. First you have to go get your trapping license. Now I have a lifetime trapping license for Iowa, so I don't have to go do that. But you do have to go get the new rule book to find out what you can take out and what you can't take out. Then you have so many different types of traps. There's probably 10 or 15 different types, different sizes, and different methodologies. So you have to get all those out. Then you have to, you need to get all your scent and everything off them. So you boil them. So I have this big 55-gallon drum that I will believe it or not, I'll build a pit fire, and then I'll put I'll fill the barrel up and put the barrel on top of that pit fire and keep that pit fire going until that water's in a running boil. And then I'll put them all in there and I will basically sanitize them. And then, after that, I will hang them out, and there's an entire process. Dyeing, doing this. Then each trap you put out has to have your ID on it. So if the state comes out and sees an animal trapped, and if you put out traps and it's live, and that then you have to know that every day that you have a live trap out, you have to go check that trap every day. So I'm not going to put out a ton of traps. I used to put out sometimes 100 to 200 traps, which would take you an entire day to go do. And what I would do is I'd set them on a Friday, and then I would walk them on Saturday and Sunday, for animals, and I take the animal out and reset it again. And if I didn't get anything on Sunday when I did my walkthrough, I'd pop them and then I'd leave them for the week, because you can't have a live trap out if you're not going to walk it every day. That's illegal and it's bad for the animal. I mean, it's horrible for the animals. They're being tortured. So every day you have to walk your trap, and if there's an animal in there, you have to put it down and then haul it off. If the DNR sees an animal in a trap, DNR is Department of Natural Resources. If the DNR goes by and sees a trap and has an animal in it, they mark the time. And if they come back the next day and the animal's still in there, they will put the animal down. They will take the animal in the trap and they have your name on it, and you get fined. And so you have to walk your traps every day. And because they don't want the animal suffering either. But that's the reason they mark the day and the time. You have to walk your trap every 24 hours. So then you have to, nowadays it's so much easier with an iPhone, you geotag them. But before you didn't geotag them. Before, you take a notebook and you would write down the description, or I used to walk around with a GPS, an old time GPS, like a tracker, and you would write down the GPS coordinates for all your things, and then you have to hang a flag, an orange flag somewhere above at eye level. So if you see a flag out in the field, beneath bushes, by a culvert, any of that stuff, you instantly start looking for a trap. That keeps people from walking and stepping into your traps. So you have to mark them all. So there's a whole process to this. And so what I'll end up doing this weekend is I'll start the boil. I'll pick the traps that I'm going to use. I'll decide how many I'm going to do. Most of them will all be on the river. And I'll actually pre-scout out where I want to put them, because you got to go out there, you got to stake them so they're chained up so the animal doesn't take off with them. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to do. It's not just throw it down on the ground and walk away. And so since I know I want to get rid of these nutria and a couple of other varmints that we have, I'm going to go ahead and do that and get that set up. But that's just one more thing I got to do this winter. And I also figured I need to mark about 10 dead trees to get some firewood. So when I'm walking tomorrow, planning the setup, I'll also find the trees I want to haul out and start chopping up for firewood. So it's going to be a fun weekend. I mean, it's going to be busy. It's rainy. This is a great thing to do in the rain, is go out there and scout and set up your tree stands and haul trees in and things like that. Everything moves better in the mud. It slides. And so, hauling the trees out, get the tractor out, ID them. If they have to be, we have to cut the roots out or whatever else to get them out, then we'll do that and we'll drag it out. And then I'll wait for, I might even chop them up and then wait for a day that's nice to actually go and split them. Because I've split wood in the rain. It's just not pleasant. And if you hit the wedge wrong, shoots off. It's a lot easier to do when it's dry and nicer weather. But that's kind of what we're doing. So I think it's going to be a good day. Like I said, I feel like it was a good morning this morning. I feel like positive things are in the air, with the exception of having a couple of Japanese beetles in Oya's mouth. And I guess I kind of deviated from that. Oya is the name of an African god, and it's Oya the Destroyer. She is the god of rainstorms and of storms in Africa. And it was funny because before we named her, as a puppy being chained up to things and doing everything else, she destroyed everything. Whatever she could get her things on, she'd chew through and she'd tear everything up. So my daughters kept saying, man, she's a destroyer. And since she was a Rhodesian Ridgeback, an African bred dog, we decided to name her Oya, O-Y-A, Oya the Destroyer. She doesn't destroy things anymore, but we just thought it was a funny name. So that's how she got her name. All right. Today we are going to try once again for the Lapras. Now I want to show you something. I decided I had all those cards back there just stacked up, and thanks to Missing O and everybody and Wifey, saying, hey, you should put those in sleeves and you should do things. And I decided I'm going to take it a step further. I'm actually going to take the book that has all the different types. I counted out every single one. So if let me see if I can grab it. So this is very tricky and very smart of Pokemon. It's like, okay, so you have your, where's the camera? You have your cards, right? And you have them there, and I'm gonna see if I can get one to go. And then each one isn't just the one card. They'll have up anywhere from 1 to 4 versions of the card in that deck. So in this box set in Stellar Crown, they have. At first, I thought, okay, this isn't going to be that bad. Yeah, there are 183 cards in the collection. I'm like, okay, because I didn't understand at the beginning. They have this the key that tells you what everything is. But I read it and I didn't understand it. And I was trying to figure out. And they say standard set foil, standard set, or parallel set. And they had them all in there. So I thought, oh, they must have different types of boxes. So right now I'm doing the standard set. But I guess if I get my whole collection, I can move over to the standard set foil or whatever. Not really realizing, and I think they could change the name. So your standard set is your playing cards. The standard set foil is your hologram card, and the parallel set is your reverse holo. And they should just say it that way. So then I realized, oh shit, for every card, there is 1 to 4 variations. And so when I'm looking at this and saying, okay, it's one card, the Bulbasaur here only has the 1 square, so there's 1. But you come down here and you look at this one and there's 2. And there's some that there's 3 and some that there's 4. So it really wasn't 180 something cards I was looking for. I think the total count is there's 324 cards that I'm looking for in this set. What WTF? Like, holy crap. I mean, no wonder it takes everybody so long to get the collection and seeking it out. So what I did was I went ahead and I told my daughter I needed a binder. Yeah, no kidding, dude. At $5, $5 here, and you get a certain number of cards. I mean, it's no wonder these guys are buying, yeah, exactly. It's anyway, they're I was talking to someone and he says that every time a new box set comes out, he starts with a $500 buy. And then after that, he slowly starts supplementing until he gets, with $500, he says he can get about 60% of the collection. And then after that, it just becomes a trading whatever game. And that's where he does it. $500, that's what he's willing to put in to the initial set. And then after that, he does buy weekly, buys a couple of packs, and he tries to fill them in. But now it's over years and trading with people and buying those other cards. But yeah, dude. And they put out so many of these packs. And I'm thinking, these people are crazy. So what I did was I figured I went ahead and did them in the order that I've drawn them so far. Not in the order I'm drawn. So I put them in a binder. Everything's in a sleeve, and then the sleeve is in this for everyone. So, if there's 2, like right here, so one is the standard and one is the reverse holo. This one has 2, but this one actually has 3. So I left the spot blank. And to get that done, so I made sure all my spaces was correct. I went here and I started at the very beginning on the first one and then said, okay, there's only one of this one. I don't have it, so blank spot. And then I worked my way down to how many of each version. So my book is perfect. The blank spots I have in my book are directly related to this. And then I use this to mark when I get one. I marked off the one that I have and leaving the other space blank. So that way I know I have a blank space. So I don't have to pull out that book all the time. If I open up this pack today, I can look through it and then look at here and say, oh shit, I need that one. Put it in the sleeve, go ahead and go out there. And then I started I started 2 extra collections. Common cards I put over in a box, that those will be the ones that I can use for gameplay. Because I have that means that one's gone into the collector set. And yeah, I don't know where she got it from. But it's pretty. And so, yeah, I thought it was nice of her. I said, just go I told her to go get me a 3-ring binder for the Pokemon cards. And I thought I was going to get a black standard binder and sleeves in it. And then she found that for me, and that's what she got me. And then everything's in order, so that way I can know. And if I've already got it there, then if it's a holo, it goes into a nicer, harder sleeve. That I don't think I have one here. Harder sleeve, and those will be either playable cards or tradable cards. So I can say, hey, if I'm looking for this card on the show, anybody's got this one, I've got all these cards for trade, and these are all ones that I've already got one in the folder. And the common ones, I will use those for building play decks. Based on, because the common cards and a lot of those that you get every deck you open, you get multiple of it. So power cards are useless. Although I think I'm going to, just to round out, I've got like 8 empty spaces or 10 empty spaces at the back of the book. I think in every book, if I ever do this again, I'm just going to put one of each power card in the back just to kind of fill out the blank spaces, so it just looks like a solid book. But yeah, if I'm going to be opening these to get these for Billy, but then I realized, holy shit, getting these Lapras cards, getting me one to fill out my set and getting Billy one of each one, this is going to be quite the endeavor, especially since, with the exception of, this Lapras here, right? So I need to get two of the common, normal cards, and then 2 reverse holos of this one, 2 of this one, which it's only got 1, thank God. And the 4th one, which is the one with the crown, which is in the back, is only 1. So I really need to get lucky and get 2, 4, 6, 8. I need to get lucky and hit 8 cards in order to get Billy one of each in this deck and get me one for the kit. And if I'm lucky, I'll get 3 of the commons, so that way I can actually put one in the play deck too, if I decide to go, water. But anyway, as much as that drove me crazy last night as I was putting this together and everything else and thinking about the money spend, I have to admire companies that do things like this, because you get into it. And when I first started doing this, and say, I want to play the game, I hang out with all these people, I get to meet people like Wifey and Maddie and things like that. This is cool. And then, but you don't do the calculations when you get into this to figure out what the cost is going to be. Now I'm doing the calculation and I'm like, what did I get into? Now I see why people go crazy with money in this thing, because how the hell do you do this? Lots of games have that money. I mean, Pokemon Go does the same thing. I mean, there's lots of money spent, 99 cents here, $4 here, blah, blah, blah. But this is at a totally different level. As a businessman, admire them so much. That's a genius. Now, the down thing about this is I think their strategy is bad, putting out 5 to 8 of these a year. Because eventually, what I'm seeing already in when I'm talking to people is, 2 years ago, from COVID on, you would walk into a Walmart, a Target, or your local card store, and every box and every pack were gone. And now there's so many people doing this that now you walk in and, and there's another one after this. There's one more this year, but this Stellar Crowd, it's like finding an EBT or finding these things. I was talking to the Walmart people, and they used to have a sign, and so did Target, that said 2 per person on these and 1 per person on these. And Target at one point had said, we're saying one in one or one product. That's all you would get because so many people would get there. Now it's back to take as many as you want because there's not as many people buying them because they've oversaturated the market. And if you really want people to go ahead and spend the money, especially if you're talking 320 cards, I'd put out 4 of these per year, 1 a quarter, and then have people trying longer to buy these because what they're saying is happening is as soon as the new one comes out, people stop buying the older ones because they don't drop the price. If it's $55 for the EBT now, it's 3 versions back, it's probably still $55. And these are $4.99, and there's 3 version backs that are still $4.99. What's the last one that came out? So we had so when I was in Tennessee, which was a month ago, this one came out, which was Shrouded Fable. And I bought the EBT and I bought the 2 box sets because this is what we were going to play on. Yeah, thank you. And so I haven't even started a collection with this yet because we were going to play this version. Did look at this again, 300 cards. Haven't checked anything, haven't put anything in sleeves, haven't done anything with this yet. Then a month later, they come out with this one. So this is the new one. And there's another one left. And so I did start doing the collecting and starting to plan to play with this deck. But you're going to come up with another one in another, I think it comes out in November, not in October. In November is the last one for the year. And if I haven't gotten this one done, am I going to give up this one to do the new one? That's that FOMO of keeping up with everything. But it's too many collections. And I think that what you're starting to see is the shelves are filled with this. Now, I like the color scheme of this. I didn't really look at this. I'm starting to look at the cards. I probably need to look for gameplay wise, what's in this and what's in this because your deck, you want to build like you could have your deck made of this and tell me if I'm wrong, wifey, or if you're on Missing O. I mean, I can play this, a game deck that's made 100% of this out of one that's made out of this, and that's legal in tournament play. I mean, you can, or I can mix these 2 up. So you really kind of, if I'm accurate on that, you really kind of have to figure out because, like in this deck, it's very heavy on the green, the water, and very heavy on the or that was green, yeah, but and on the water. Yeah, though it's very heavy on those 2. And on some of the other ones, hardly any cards. On this one, like the water, there's only 4 or 5, right? So you kind of have to, when you're looking at it, you kind of have to, and it's interesting also, they vary. Look at the book difference in the book size. I mean, this is out of an EBT and this is out of an EBT. Yeah, there's no consistency on everything. That's probably smart farmed on. And since I still haven't hit level 50, although I'm working on it, I'm feeling like I need to jump into something else. I actually, my daughter, my oldest daughter, Misty, who lives in Texas, and her fiance, when Misty was young, and I'm way over time right now, and I'm sorry, guys. When Misty was a little girl, I was working with Blizzard. Our game company was working with Blizzard. That's when we created the Test of Tactics tournament for them, and we created the in-game cameras. We were doing a lot of coding for them back then. And so, we were full-time Blizzard for a year, part-time Blizzard for about 2 years in doing design and stuff like that. And so back then it was all World of Warcraft. It was all WoW. It's when WoW first launched. And so I played a lot of WoW. And my oldest daughter liked watching me. So we set up a computer in my office and in my home office that the girls could come. Misty was the oldest at that time. Jillian wasn't even born and Gabby was very little. So Misty would come over so she could hang with Dad while I was coding and working. And so like behind me or over in the other corner, I would have a computer for her to sit down and she'd play WoW with me. So I'd be coding. I'd have multiple screens up and I'm coding, but coding in gameplay and doing a bunch of things. And she would join me to go play, and she would be a tester. And so because we're not playing a live server, we're playing a test server. And so we'd be doing things and testing things, and she'd go, "Oh, I'll play." So she got heavily into WoW, and she was good, and she enjoyed it. And we did that we played WoW together probably for 6 years. And it was so much fun, and it got us closer together, and we would go to the events together, the cons, and all that stuff. And it was such a great part of my life and experience. And she remembered that. So apparently, WoW just released their new set, and they have WoW Classic and they have the new WoW. And she was like, "Oh my God, Dad, a couple people at work that play WoW still." And they were like, or not work, at school. Sorry. She's getting her master's degree. She goes, "A couple of people that I study group with play WoW. And they were telling me about this new system and this and that and all this new areas." And she goes, having played originally, it sounded so different than we were used to. She goes, "Mikey," I went to Mikey, her fiance, who plays games but doesn't play. He plays Pokemon Go and he plays one other game. And he goes, he's never played an MMORPG before. And she goes, "I thought it would be fun for a relaxing time that once a week we would just sit down and play instead of watching movies all the time like we do. We'd both get on and we're going to start playing WoW." And she goes, "We both got new accounts. We're starting from scratch. We're going to build them up, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "It would be cool if you would join us occasionally." I go, "Yeah, when are you going to do it?" And she goes, "Sunday evenings, 2 hours max, maybe 3 at the, if there's like a raid or something we want to do." And now it's level 80 and it's like all these different things. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's quite a grind. And she was kind of walking me through it. So she sold me, and she was like, "Okay, but you can't advance your characters. We can only play together at the same time." Done. Okay. I don't roll like that. I have a hard time not knowing what's going on. So I go, "Let me look into it, and then I'll confirm. But yeah, I think I'll do it." So checked, nothing on in that time of night on Sunday. Family's always like, "Yeah, go play with go play with Misty," which is great because it's it's connection with my daughter. You get on chat, and then I get this text message saying, "I've already bought you your account and paid for the year. So your time card's paid for the year, and I already bought you the newest." You buy the newest thing, and it buys every edition all the way back, and there's a lot of them. So that's kind of how they're trying to get people back into the game. And she goes, "So the next thing is we'll talk Horde or Alliance, and we'll kind of go through this thing." And I'm like, "Okay." So I kind of feel like I'm vested now. So I snuck on last night, and first I had to update the computer. Hasn't played an MMORPG and everything else, and I'm sure I knew it was going to be a big download if there was that much data from that many versions of the game. So I did that. It took like 2 hours to get everything installed, optimized, everything else. Logged in, didn't recognize a damn thing. I mean, I was shocked considering I worked for the company. Mechanics have changed. Professions. I mean, there's so many more professions. I mean, of course, the game evolved, but there's so much more in there. Graphics still 15 years old. I don't feel like they've done enough with the graphics to really enhance it. But the graphics were pretty fantastic back then. And I think I can understand with an MMORPG where everything's it's like you're live. How you probably wouldn't want to keep making people upgrade their computers, so it's taxing. And I might not be running it on full tilt, so I might be able to do that, but I was fine with what it was. And so I picked a character that I figured they would never go do. Found these new starting areas. They got freaking pandas. You can play a panda. You can play a dragon. You can all these different things. I mean, it was like it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. How much and I used to be a D&D geek when I was a kid. Haven't played it for years because it evolved so much and it's become so mechanically difficult that I don't just want to have to spend the brain power to do it. So I dropped D&D a long time ago. I mean, talking like high school. And never gotten back into it, although I always kept reminiscing. And I know so many people now my age that have gone back to play that I would love to be able to hang out with a bunch of people and go, travel around and hit a table and play, but whatever. So I started doing it, and then I got into the game, and it was fun. I mean, I thought I actually thought I would only play. I was like, I'm going to play for 30 minutes. And when I looked down at the clock, I had spent 3 hours playing. Swear to God, thought it was 30 minutes. And I went next door. Dinner's cold on the table. Yeah, everybody else had gone to bed, and I'm like, okay. Now, I wasn't even on my good computer. I was on a laptop in the house, and if I came here and played, I can imagine even more time would have gone by because my internet connection out there is laggy. So it was kind of it was still fine to play, but I wouldn't play with anybody at home. I would definitely come out here where I have a solid internet connection and everything else and a better computer. But I got sucked in. Yeah. So I might actually, I said on Twitch I wasn't going to stream any gaming. I might actually play one day a week and actually stream and see if I can get some people there. The other thing is there's not that many people. Well, all the servers say they're full. Back when I played, finding a group or finding a lot of noobs and people to play with you was super easy. They've nerfed everything, kind of like Pokemon Go's having to do, which is if you're under level 40, being able to solo anything or going and finding anybody to do a level 5 raid is so hardening. If anybody that's been playing Pokemon Go for a long time, which I think everybody here has, you remember the days that you'd go to a stop and there were 20 people to stop or 40 or 60, and you'd have to have a lot of people to do these raids, and everybody was there, and you were on Discord communicating things and trying to handle all these big raids. And Niantic has just realized that isn't happening, so they've nerfed everything that you can solo level 5 eggs if you're high enough level and have the right groups. You have 2 people, you can pretty much handle anything. I mean, it's gotten a lot easier. Nerf. I like the good old. Oh yeah, there's Nardon. Yep, the good old days. I like those old days because community was everything. Everybody was hanging out, doing everything. It was super positive. It was a great experience. WoW was the same thing. It was super immersive because you had guilds and hundreds of people, and you walk around and people were chatting with each other because it was vested interest and things like that. And if I said, hey, I need a couple of hands to help me take down this boss, so if like 5 people, you do /invite back then or whatever, and pop it up there, and people would join the group. And then you go out there and do it and then disband and everybody go on their own way. And you'd share loot and you do everything. I was out there shouting my ass off. So the server I was on said it was 90% full. It was red. 90% full. I picked that one. So I figured there'd be lots of people around there while I was trying to figure things out that I could walk up to people and say, hey, where do I go for this? What do I do for that? Blah, 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 because I hadn't been in the game so long. And everybody I tried to ask things to, no one would answer. I had 3 bosses that I was having problems with, and I would do shout out after shout out after shout out. No one would even help. And then one guy said, stop shouting. And I was like, okay. So I'm glad that I'm going to be playing some with my daughter, because I think that, I think with 3 people, and she said a couple of people from school said they might create a new character and join us and play. And this is like D&D. Doing it as a group is fun. And then having other people that pop in and pop out is kind of fun. I think going solo, like one day a week, like on a Wednesday, in the evening where I just go out there and do it. I'm just curious how much I can get done by myself, and if anybody will help. For me, it's another social experiment. It's like, I'd be willing to buy people's monthly card to have a couple people to run around and do some of this stuff with me. And it's so easy to level. In that 3 hours, I leveled from level 1 to level 15 or level 20. I can't remember where I ended up. And then I deleted it because the main thing was I just wanted to see, what the recipe, like what professions they had now, what they had added, right off the bat, like at level 10, you can now ride a mount. You can't fly, but you can be riding a mount because the world has gotten so much bigger. They want you to be able to move around more. And so you're getting your first mount at level 10. It's like, wow, I remember I had to be level 40 to do that. It was, or whatever it was. But it's still cool. I actually enjoyed it. MMOs, massive multiplayer online either RPGs or whatever. I think they're a cool, active community thing. Hopefully, Missing O can teach me how to do the split screen so the gameplay's up there and I'm casting, or maybe I just have that on there and I do voiceover. I don't know. I barely do this, so that's another thing, and we'll see how much time I sink into it. Lucky is you don't spend money. Once you buy your monthly card, you're pretty much in your gameplay. So anybody that wants to try World of Warcraft again for the first time, hit me up in my DMs on Twitter or whatever, and I'll hook you up for the first month or something like that to have a couple people play with me. I'd invite Farmed on, but I don't think he still has a computer that works since he. Did that Razor ever end up working? If not, I need to pick that one up from you when we're in Houston and give you this other one, and I'll take it to Razor. All right, sorry, I'm opening the decks, and it's almost 8:30. I'm up like 30 minutes past, so I appreciate everybody. All right, got the card. Again, we're just going to go fast on this. Got a ton of Relu. Boop. Come on. Got to figure out how to get this thing to focus. Varoom. Got lots of him. Most of these. Leap. Blair. That chick is everywhere. I think I've got 4 Blairs now. Is this Electivire? Dubwool. We've pulled many Dubwools. Come on, there we go. I guess that's where I'm going to stay. Okay, that looks like a Radon reverse hollow. I got to get better lighting too. Meryl reverse hollow. Oh, I need this one. So from the collection standpoint, this doesn't help Billy. That's a full hollow. Actually, no. That is the Metacham EX card. And I think this is a 1. That's a single. And I think that Metacharm, which is fighting. Sorry, I knew I said I was going to get off quickly, but then I ended up getting a card, and I want to look up Metacham. Okay, so it is not the hollow that's in the set. It is one of the backs. There she is. Right there. So it is a 2 silver, 2 gray star. So an ultra rare hollow. So that one is going directly into the collection because I don't have that one yet. And so another thing I think I told you I did the other day, and I'm not going to do this on camera with you, but there's an app called Rare Candy that you can scan the card and it will tell you the current value in auction on eBay and everything else. On Monday, when I do the next set of pulls, I'm going to have Rare Candy up. I haven't set up my account yet on there. And if I get a card like that one, I'm going to scan it on air and we're going to show you the value of what it's going for in the auctions, what they say the auction value is for that card. I thought that would be a fun element in there because you're spending $5.99. If this card right here on that pack was worth $7, then you made money on that pack. If it's only worth $1, all these other cards are worth pennies. You're not doing anything. So, all right. Let me just do it this way. Fletchling, Firelinks. We have all those. Pergugly. Fido. Swalot, we have that. Papaya Berry. I know I have Papaya Berry. I need the reverse hollow for that. Ooh, Menshao. I don't have Menshao. I don't have that either. I don't have either the common or the normal or the reverse hollow for that. So that goes out there. Okay, this is Toadscruel. Reverse hollow. This now becomes a tradable card because I have 2 of these already, one in the collection and a backup. All right. Finion again, reverse hollow. That goes in the tradable. And maybe it's not even tradable. Maybe these are ones I give away also on the stream. Somebody suggested to me yesterday that if either I can trade them if somebody wants to trade, or I can give these away maybe with one of these. So I'm giving away a virtual Pokemon and a reverse hollow. And even if you guys, if like, well, I don't need it, you can use it as a tradable card. All right, last one. Oh my god! No, this is what those girls do. Oh my god! Okay. I can't do it like they do. I am not as good as they are. I will come up with my scream. Dude and dudettes, we did it. We got Billy's card. That is the one. That was the goal. That is the Lapras with the crown. That is this baby right there. Boom, right there. We got it. So that is an ultra rare foil of Lapras. Looking at that card, clean edges. Oh, wait. Okay. So I'm going to do this. So I'm going to say this is a 9. If I were to send this in, this is going to be a PSA 9. Card looks good. Edges are clean. This edge right here, this corner, I don't know if you can see it. It's going to be super hard to get the camera to see that. Again, I got to get a better camera. The corner right here, it's not a perfectly rounded cut. It's got a little bulge. And so all the other corners look really, really good. All the edges look clean with the exception of this one. And it's a clean edge. It's overcut. It's slightly larger than the other. But that's a beautiful card. So now I've got 2 cards of so this is a one and done. Now I need to get one for my collection, but that's a one and done for Billy. And we've got the standard common Lapras that we need the reverse foil on. And then there's one more card, which is also a hollow. It's this without the crown. Yeah. Good Saturday. And, I mean, I went over in time and things like that, but that's good. That one's going into the hard little case right now. So I got one card that I need for my collection. Well, 2 cards theoretically I need for my collection, but the one's going to Billy. And I will actually take that card. I'm meeting Billy after TwitchCon. He's at TwitchCon. We're meeting in San Francisco on Monday to go film and talk to one of our new company partners. And I will take that card to him. And then since he's been doing the PSA stuff, he can film sending that off to PSA, and we can do that. Or maybe we'll live stream on Monday from the hotel. But all right, that's it for our Saturday. It was great seeing everybody. Again, anybody interested in trying a little WoW, kind of going out there and seeing what we can do. I mean, I'm definitely doing it with my daughter, but 2 hours once a week is not going to be enough because we're going to be doing everything together and they're going to want to explore different levels. I think I need that one extra day to be able to understand the mechanics of the game better so I can play better with them. And I'm okay, playing my role, whatever the role is. I'm thinking Hunter. I'm feeling Hunter right now. Normally, I play a healing class. Ever since Dungeons and Dragons, I've always played a healing class. And my first instinct was to play a healing class with my daughter. And then I realized I really want to try something different. I'm into this whole trying different things right now, but I know that her expectation is going to be, well, Dad's going to be a priest or a druid, and that's what he's going to be. So I'm sure she's got a plan in her head. And since this is her time and she's doing this, I'm going to say, what do you want to play? Horde or Alliance? And, do you have a group assignment that you're already thinking? And I can hear her saying, yeah, Dad, you're going to play the healer. Okay, so I'm going to do that. But I don't think I want to play a healer all the time. So I think I'm going to learn the game mechanics again and kind of learn all these new areas and explore ahead of doing it with them. I think I'm going to try something new. I'm really feeling either a hunter, or I've always wanted to play something dark. So maybe a Death Knight, which had just come out in Lich King when I was dropping from the game. Hunter was always an original class, that you could do back when the game first came out. But Death Knight just came out in Lich King, and I've never done one. And they were big and ominous, and they were also super popular. Whenever a new thing came out, everybody was playing it. And so I think that's, yeah. I know now I hear everybody says, yeah, it's not the best and everything else. I think playing a different race, like a dragon person Death Knight, that could be cool. Or a fat panda Death Knight. I don't know if pandas can be Death Knights. Someone said that pandas are only Alliance, and Alliance can't be Death Knights. But I'm assuming the dragon type is Horde. And if that's the case, being a dragon that has all those evil Lich King Death Knight vibes, yeah. And I'll be the nice person with my daughter, and I'll be the dark person on the other. Anyway, join me for my dark journey. All right, guys, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are and whatever applies to you. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be live on Monday again. That's a lie. I will not be live on Monday. I will be on Tuesday, because Monday, 6 a.m., I will be on a plane. My plane leaves at 6 a.m. on Monday. So I'm glad we caught that. I will put that out there. If Billy and I are going to stream Monday night, I'll put that out there instead, and we'll just stream Monday night. And you guys have a great Saturday or Sunday, and have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you, I guess, on Monday night or Tuesday. Cheers. Bye.